Billionaire visits her son's grave 5 years after his death and finds a black child crying. She was shocked. Helena Sterling drove her black Mercedes-Benz through the gates of Coral Gables Cemetery with a heart as heavy as lead. 5 years. 5 years since she lost Raphael, her only son, in a diving accident in the Bahamas. Today marked the most painful anniversary of his death, the 5th, and she had finally found the courage to visit him alone, without assistance, without security guards, just a devastated mother standing before the white marble tomb that had cost more than many houses. At 60, Helena controlled a real estate empire valued at $800 million, but all her wealth couldn't fill the void left by Raphael. She parked near the family mausoleum and walked slowly along the perfectly manicured paths, carrying a bouquet of white orchids, Raphael's favorite flowers. As she approached the grave, Helena stopped abruptly. A black boy, about 6 years old, was kneeling on Raphael's tombstone, sobbing so hard that his little shoulders shook. His clothes were simple but clean, worn jeans and a blue t-shirt that had seen better days. What shocked Helena most was not finding a child there, but the way he was crying, with familiarity, as if he had known Raphael personally. "Boy," Helena said firmly, her voice cutting through the silence of the cemetery. "You're in the wrong place. This is a private mausoleum belonging to the Sterling family." The boy lifted his face, revealing light green eyes shining with tears. Eyes that Helena knew intimately. Eyes identical to Raphael's. Gabriel, because Helena saw the name discreetly embroidered on his small backpack, stared at her without fear, only with deep sadness. "I'm not in the wrong place," he said in a soft but firm voice. "I come here every month to talk to my father." The orchid slipped from Helena's hands, scattering across the cold marble. "Your father." The word came out as an incredulous whisper. Gabriel nodded, wiping his tears with his shirt sleeve. "Mom brought me here since I was little. She always said that Dad was here, waiting to meet me." Helena felt the world spin. Raphael had died at 28, unmarried, without ever mentioning serious relationships, let alone children. She had investigated every detail of his life after the funeral, searching for meaning, for connections, for anything that would explain why he was alone on that yacht when the accident happened. She had never found evidence of girlfriends, let alone a child. "Where is your mother?" Helena asked, her executive mind trying to process information that contradicted everything she believed she knew about her son. Gabriel pointed to a woman sitting on a distant bench, watching them silently. Even from a distance, Helena recognized her elegant posture. Camila Santos, who had worked as a housekeeper at the Sterling mansion for almost a decade. The revelation hit Helena like a bolt of lightning. Camila, the discreet employee who took care of the house, who organized Raphael's schedule, who always showed exemplary dedication to her work. The woman Helena had abruptly fired 2 years ago due to staff cuts, but in reality because her constant presence was a painful reminder of Raphael. "Camila worked for us," Helena muttered, more to herself than anyone else. Gabriel smiled sadly. "Mom always talks about how important you were to her. She told me you took care of the house where Dad grew up." Helena stared at Gabriel, searching for similarities. The eyes were unmistakably Sterling, green with flecks of gold, a genetic trait passed down through 4 generations. The shape of his face, the line of his jaw, even the way he tilted his head when he was thinking. It was like looking at Raphael in miniature. But there was something about Camila's presence there, the way she watched from a distance without approaching, that suggested careful planning. As if she knew exactly when Helena would come, as if she had been waiting years for this specific moment. Why would a former employee bring a child to Raphael's grave every month? Why did Gabriel talk about Raphael as his father so naturally? "Gabriel," Helena said, kneeling down to be at the boy's eye level. "Did your mother tell you how you were born?" The boy shook his head. "She always says she'll tell me when I'm older. But I know Daddy loved me very much, even before I was born." Helena felt an emotion she hadn't felt in 5 years, hope mixed with terror. If Gabriel really was Raphael's grandson, it meant she wasn't alone in the world. But it also meant she had lost 6 years of her grandson's life, that a part of Raphael was still alive and she never knew it. "Do you want to meet your real grandmother?" Helena asked impulsively, reaching out to Gabriel. He looked at Camila, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. "Mommy said that one day I would meet my dad's family," Gabriel replied, taking Helena's hand. "She said that when the time was right, everything would become clear." At that moment, Touching Gabriel's small, warm hand, Helena realized that her life was about to change completely. But there was something in the confidence with which Gabriel treated her, in the way Camilla had orchestrated this meeting, that suggested this discovery was not accidental. It was the result of a carefully executed plan, years in the making, waiting for the exact moment to reveal a truth that would transform everything Helena thought she knew about her family. If you are intrigued by this impossible encounter and want to discover the secrets Camilla has kept for years, keep following this story that proves that some revelations can change not only lives, but the meaning of family, love, and justice. 3 days after the devastating encounter at the cemetery, Helena turned her personal office in the Coral Gables penthouse into an investigation center. Documents scattered across the century-old mahogany desk revealed a double life that Raphael had hidden with impressive skill. Her private investigator, Detective Marcus Reed, sat across from her with an expression that mixed professional admiration and personal discomfort. "Helena, in 20 years of investigating wealthy families, I've never seen anything like this," Marcus said, leafing through medical reports that confirmed the unthinkable. "Gabriel Santos Sterling is genetically your grandson. The DNA tests are conclusive. He was born on March 15, 2018, 7 months after Raphael's death." Helena absorbed the information with a businesslike coolness that had made her one of the most powerful women in Florida, but inside she felt as if she were simultaneously collapsing and rebuilding herself. How did Raphael hide a pregnancy? Camila worked in our house until 2 weeks before he died. Here's where it gets interesting. Marcus opened a separate folder. Camila requested a transfer to work exclusively at Raphael's private apartment for the last 6 months. She claimed that the main mansion was too hectic for her liking. Raphael personally approved the change. Helena vaguely remembered the change. At the time, she had thought it was a minor administrative decision. Raphael had always been independent, preferring privacy in his personal space. Now she understood that it had been a deliberate strategy to protect Camila and hide the pregnancy from the prying eyes of family and staff. "There's more," Marcus continued, removing photographs from a manila envelope. "I found these in Raphael's private apartment, kept in a safe that has only just been opened." The photos showed Raphael and Camila in intimate moments, romantic dinners, walks on the beach, Camila visibly pregnant smiling next to Raphael, who was caressing her belly. The last photo was devastating, Raphael kneeling before Camila, offering her a simple but elegant engagement ring. On the back, a note in Raphael's familiar handwriting: "I asked her today. She said yes. We'll tell Mom after Gabriel is born." Helena felt tears run down her face for the first time in years. Raphael had planned to introduce Camila as his daughter-in-law and Gabriel as his grandson. The diving accident had stolen not only her son, but an entire family she didn't even know existed. "Why did Camila never come looking for me?" Helena asked, dabbing her eyes with a silk handkerchief. "Why did you hide Gabriel for 6 years?" Marcus hesitated before answering. "Helena, you fired Camila 2 years ago in a very abrupt manner. No warning, no letter of recommendation, no explanation other than staff restructuring." The memory came back with a vengeance. Helena had fired Camila on an impulse of pain. Seeing the face of her former housekeeper every day was a constant reminder of Raphael, of a time when the mansion was full of life and purpose. It seemed easier to eliminate everything that connected her to the painful memory. "She tried to talk to me that day," Helena recalled slowly. "She said she had something important to discuss about Raphael. I cut her off. I said I didn't want to hear about my son from a maid." Marcus nodded gravely. Camila now works as an administrative coordinator at Miami Children's Hospital. 2 jobs, actually. She also teaches Spanish at night at a community college. She lives in a modest apartment in Homestead with Gabriel. No luxuries, but she lives with dignity. "I want to talk to her," Helena decided, reaching for her phone. "I need to understand why she kept me away from my grandson." But when she called Camila, the response was surprisingly firm. "Mrs. Sterling, I'm willing to talk, but it will be on my terms, on my turf. If you really want to meet Gabriel, come to the hospital tomorrow at 4 p.m. alone." The next day, Helena arrived at Miami Children's Hospital driving her own car, something she hadn't done in years. The hospital was a world away from her usual reality, hallways filled with worried families, doctors rushing between emergencies, volunteers offering comfort with limited resources but infinite compassion. Camila was waiting for her in a small conference room, wearing blue hospital scrubs. At 35, she retained the natural elegance Helena remembered, but now there was an authority in her posture that had not existed when she was a domestic worker. "Helena," Camila said without unnecessary formality. "I figured this day would come eventually." Her voice carried a mixture of resignation and determination that Helena had not expected. "You want explanations. I want guarantees." "Guarantees of what?" Helena asked, instinctively assuming the businesslike posture she used in difficult negotiations. Camila smiled without humor. "Guarantees that you won't try to take Gabriel away from me using your financial resources and legal connections. Guarantees that you won't repeat the mistakes you made with Raphael." The accusation hit Helena like a slap in the face. "What mistakes?" "Raphael told me about his childhood, Helena. About how you never had time for soccer games because you were closing deals. About how he learned not to bother you with school problems because you were always in important meetings. About how he felt invisible in his own home." Helena felt the familiar anger rising. "I worked tirelessly to build an empire that Raphael would inherit. Everything I did was to secure his future. And his present." Camila retorted. "When was the last time you had dinner together without discussing business? When was the last time you asked him about his personal dreams, not business strategies?" The questions echoed in the silence because Helena had no answers. Raphael had grown up in a 15-bedroom mansion, but emotionally he had been raised by nannies and tutors while she built sterling properties. "Gabriel has called me mom for 6 years, Camila continued, her voice softer now. "He knows every birthmark on my body, every story from my childhood, every fear and joy I have. He is my son in every way that matters, except biologically." Helena looked out the conference room window and saw Gabriel playing in the hospital playground with other children. He laughed loudly, helped a smaller boy climb onto the slide, and displayed a natural kindness that he had surely learned from Camila. "Why now?" Helena finally asked. "Why let me find him in the cemetery after all these years?" Camila hesitated, then took a letter from her pocket. "Because Gabriel started asking questions about his father's family. And because Raphael left this for you." The letter, written in Raphael's familiar handwriting, was addressed to Helena with instructions to be delivered when Gabriel turned 6. The contents were devastating. Raphael explained his love for Camila, his plans for marriage, and above all, his desire for Helena to meet Gabriel when he was mature enough to understand the complexity of the family situation. At that moment, holding her son's final words, Helena understood that Camila had not hidden Gabriel out of revenge or greed. She had protected the child from a grandmother who had not yet learned to prioritize human relationships over material achievements. And now, finally, she was offering a chance at redemption that Helena might not deserve, but that Gabriel certainly did. A week after the conversation at the hospital, Helena received an invitation that left her perplexed. Camila had invited her to dinner at her apartment in Homestead, not to negotiate or confront, but so that Gabriel could meet his real grandmother, as he had requested. The address took Helena to a modest housing complex, a world completely different from her reality in Coral Gables. The 2-bedroom apartment was impeccably clean and organized, decorated with photographs of Gabriel at various ages, Camila's diplomas hanging proudly on the wall, and children's books in English and Spanish scattered across the coffee table. What impressed Helena most was the photo gallery on the main wall, Gabriel growing up, but also photos of Raphael she had never seen before, intimate, casual moments that revealed a side of her son she didn't know. "Mom told me you're very important," Gabriel said as he showed Helena his toys. "She said you build houses for people to live in." The simple explanation of her complex career, filtered through a child's perspective, made Helena smile for the first time in weeks. During dinner, a delicious Cuban picadillo that Camila had prepared from scratch, Helena observed the dynamic between mother and son. Gabriel talked excitedly about school. Camila gently corrected him when he spoke with his mouth full, and they both laughed at inside jokes that Helena didn't understand but secretly envied. "Gabriel goes to bed at 8:30 p.m., Camila said after the boy went to brush his teeth. "Would you like to read him a story? It's something Raphael always said he would do when Gabriel was born." The intimate tradition Raphael had planned but never been able to carry out moved Helena deeply. In Gabriel's small but cozy bedroom, Helena read Where the Wild Things Are in a trembling voice, watching as the boy snuggled up against her naturally, as if they had been close for years. When Gabriel fell asleep, she stayed a few extra minutes just watching, trying to memorize every detail of the grandson she had lost 6 years ago. In the living room, Camila served Cuban coffee and opened a box that Helena hadn't noticed before. Raphael asked me to keep these things for Gabriel when he grew up, Camila explained, carefully removing the items. But I think you should see them first. The collection was touching: the Rolex watch Raphael wore in high school, love letters he had written to Camila during her pregnancy, ultrasounds of Gabriel that Raphael had kept religiously, and a journal where he documented his plans for the family he was creating. One entry in particular made Helena stop breathing. Mom still doesn't know about Camila and Gabriel. I'm afraid of her reaction. She's always judged people by their social class, not their character. But Camila is the most intelligent and kind woman I've ever met. I hope that when Gabriel is born, Mom will see what I see, a family built on true love, not social expectations. He was right about me, Helena admitted, closing the diary. I would have judged you. I probably would have tried to separate you. Camila nodded sadly. Raphael knew. That's why he planned to wait until Gabriel was born. He believed you wouldn't be able to resist your grandson's charm. But there was something else, Camila continued, her voice taking on a more serious tone. Raphael discovered things about Sterling Properties in the last months of his life that deeply disturbed him. Labor practices that you may not have known were happening. Helena stiffened. What kind of practices? Camila pulled a folder from the box. Documents Raphael had collected secretly. Exploitation of immigrant workers on construction projects. Wages below the legal minimum. Dangerous working conditions. Subcontracting to companies that used slave labor. The documents were devastating. Contracts with contractors Helena knew were questionable, but had always delegated to subordinates to oversee. Photographs of deplorable working conditions at construction sites that proudly displayed the Sterling Properties logo. Testimonials from workers describing inhumane treatment. Raphael was planning to confront you about this when he got back from the Bahamas, Camila revealed. He said he couldn't raise a child knowing that the family fortune was built on the suffering of others. Helena felt nausea rising. Are you suggesting that Raphael died because of this? I don't know, Camila replied honestly. But I do know that he was very stressed in the last few weeks. Torn between loyalty to family and doing what was right. He had decided to expose everything publicly if you didn't agree to completely reform the company's practices. The revelation explained Raphael's strange behavior in the months before the accident. Secret meetings, suspicious phone calls, an emotional distance that Helena had attributed to business stress. Now she understood that he was struggling with discoveries that threatened to destroy everything she had built. Why are you telling me this now? Helena asked, suspecting there was more to the story. Camila looked at her directly. Because I want Gabriel to grow up proud of his family. But I can't let him inherit a legacy built on exploitation and injustice. And what exactly do you propose? That you finish the work Raphael started. Reform Sterling Properties. Compensate the exploited workers. Turn the company into a force for good, not just for profit. Camila paused. And that you learn to be the grandmother Gabriel deserves, present, loving, involved in his real life. Helena looked around the modest apartment where Gabriel had grown up surrounded by genuine love, then thought of her empty mansion where no child's laughter had echoed for decades. And if I make these changes, she asked slowly, will you allow me to be a part of Gabriel's life? Helena, Camila said softly, I never wanted to keep you from knowing your grandson. I just wanted to make sure you were prepared to love him unconditionally, not just see him as an heir or a personal project. That night, driving back to Coral Gables, Helena realized that Camila had done more than protect Gabriel. She had protected her from repeating the mistakes that had cost her relationship with Raphael. The choice was now hers: continue being the cold businesswoman who prioritized profits over people, or become the grandmother Gabriel deserved and Raphael would have wanted her to be. 3 months after discovering Gabriel, Helena called an emergency meeting with the entire executive board of Sterling Properties. In the conference room on the 50th floor, executives in expensive suits waited nervously, knowing that their boss had been strangely distant from the business in recent weeks. What they didn't expect was Camila Santos to enter the room carrying a box of documents, accompanied by David Martinez, a lawyer specializing in labor rights. Gentlemen, Helena began, her voice carrying absolute authority that silenced any whisper. Today we are going to discuss fundamental reforms in the operating practices of Sterling Properties. Changes that we will implement immediately, regardless of the initial cost. Thomas Brennan, Vice President of Operations for 15 years, couldn't hide his discomfort. Helena, if this is about those union reports, I can explain that all of our practices are within legal limits. Legal doesn't mean ethical, Helena interrupted him. And I've found that some aren't even legal. Camila methodically opened the box, distributing copies of documents that Raphael had secretly collected. Photographs of workers in deplorable conditions, contracts with exploitative clauses, evidence of systematic labor rights violations that had existed for years with the knowledge of management. This is an insult, protested Richard Warner, the financial director. Bringing in a former employee to audit our operations? Helena, since when did maids become business consultants? The disparaging comment about Camila aroused a rage in Helena that she didn't know she possessed. Camila Santos has a master's degree in management from FIU and is a specialist in labor rights, Helena replied coldly. She is also the mother of my grandson and had more moral integrity working in our home than you have shown running this company. The silence that followed was tense. David Martinez took the floor. Gentlemen, we have enough documentation for criminal proceedings against several people in this room. Exploitation of undocumented workers, unsafe working conditions resulting in hospitalizations, systematic wage theft affecting hundreds of families. Blackmail, Thomas muttered. That's what this is. Helena stood up, her presence dominating the room. Thomas, you're fired. Effective immediately. Richard too. Any executive who views ethical reform as blackmail clearly does not understand the values this company will stand for going forward. The decision shocked everyone present. Thomas tried one last card. Helena, you're having an emotional breakdown. The board may question your mental competence to run the company. The board, Helena smiled coldly, is composed mostly of me and my son. Since Raphael is dead, I control 78% of the shares. You are all fired. In the months that followed, Sterling Properties underwent the greatest transformation in its history. Helena implemented minimum wages 40% above the national average, comprehensive health benefits for all employees and their families, education programs for workers' children, and independent oversight of all working conditions. The initial cost was astronomical, $60 million in compensation for exploited workers, another $40 million in safety improvements, and the temporary loss of contracts with clients who refused to pay ethical prices. But something unexpected happened. The company's renewed reputation attracted premium customers willing to pay more for ethically responsible construction. Gabriel is proud of his grandmother, Camila reported during a dinner at the Sterling Mansion, now renovated with a special room for Gabriel and child-friendly play areas. He tells his friends at school that his grandmother fixes things that are wrong. Helena's transformation was equally dramatic. She began picking Gabriel up from school every day, participating in soccer games on Saturdays, and teaching him about business through educational games. For the first time in decades, the Sterling Mansion echoed with children's laughter and genuine family conversation. You know what impresses me the most? Helena said one night while helping Gabriel with his math homework. How he thinks. He doesn't just memorize, he questions, explores, wants to understand the why behind everything. Camila smiled. Raphael was the same. Always asking questions you didn't expect. 6 months after the renovation, Sterling Properties received the Florida Corporate Social Responsibility Award. During her acceptance speech, Helena did something that shocked the business audience. She introduced Camila as the woman who taught me that true success is measured in lives improved, not just profits accumulated. My son Raphael left me 2 gifts before he died, Helena continued, her voice emotional. A grandson who teaches me daily about unconditional love, and a daughter-in-law who showed me how to turn wealth into an instrument of social justice. In the audience, Gabriel applauded enthusiastically, not fully understanding the magnitude of what his existence had caused, but proud to see his family united on stage. Camila held Helena's hand, symbolizing an alliance that had begun in conflict but had evolved into a partnership in raising Gabriel and transforming a business empire. That night, as Gabriel slept between them watching a family movie, Helena reflected on how the discovery of a grandson had saved not only her soul but hundreds of working families whose lives had improved through the transformation of Sterling Properties. 2 years after discovering Gabriel in the cemetery, Helena Sterling stood on the playground at Phillips Academy, watching her grandson lead a group of children in a Lego building project. At 8 years old, Gabriel displayed natural leadership and engineering skills that reminded both Helena and Raphael of their best qualities. He wants to be an architect like his dad, Camila said, sitting next to Helena on the bench where they now watched Gabriel's games together every Saturday. But an architect who builds houses for people in need, as he says. The transformation of Sterling Properties had become a case study in international business schools. Not only had the company maintained its profitability after the ethical reforms, but it had increased its market value by 40% by attracting clients who prioritized social responsibility. Helena had discovered that doing good was not only morally right, but also financially smart. "Do you know what Gabriel asked me yesterday?" Helena said, her eyes never leaving the boy. "If I was happy now." I didn't even know how to answer because I couldn't remember the last time someone cared about my happiness instead of my profits. Camila smiled. "And what did you say?" "That I've learned that true happiness comes from building relationships, not just buildings. And that he taught me that." The relationship between Helena and Camila had evolved from initial tension to mutual respect, and finally to genuine friendship. Camila had been promoted to Director of Social Responsibility at Sterling Properties, a position she had created specifically to oversee community programs and ensure that the company maintained its ethical standards. "Remember when you offered me $200,000 to buy Gabriel?" Camila asked softly. Helena blushed. "One of the most embarrassing moments of my life. I treated my own grandson like a business transaction." "But you learned," Camila observed. "Gabriel told me you baked cookies together last night. Raphael would be proud to see how you've become the grandmother he always wanted you to be." At school, Gabriel ran toward them holding a drawing. "Abuela, look. I drew our family." The paper showed 3 figures holding hands in front of a house, a tall, elegant woman, Helena, a smaller woman smiling, Camila, and a child in the middle, Gabriel. Above them, a male figure with wings watched from the clouds, Raphael protecting his family together. "Why did you draw Daddy with wings?" Helena asked, touched by the innocence of the child's art. "Because Mama Camila said that Daddy became a guardian angel who watches over us," Gabriel explained with adult seriousness. "And he brought us together to be a family, even though he's in heaven." That afternoon, during the Sunday lunch that had become a tradition at the Sterling Mansion, Gabriel made an announcement that surprised both women. "Grandma, Mama Camila, can you be mothers together forever? Like married dads, but with both of you taking care of me." Helena and Camila exchanged amused glances. "Gabriel, we're already a family," Helena explained. "We don't need papers to love each other." "But I want Mama Camila to live here forever," Gabriel insisted. "And I want Grandma to stop working so much so she can play with me more." The solution came naturally. Camila and Gabriel moved into the east wing of the Sterling Mansion, creating a unique family dynamic where 3 generations shared daily life but maintained personal independence. Helena reduced her workload to 40 hours a week, devoting entire afternoons to Gabriel and discovering simple joys she had lost for decades. "You know what impresses me most about Gabriel?" Helena said one evening as they prepared dinner together, a domestic scene she had never imagined experiencing. "He has no prejudices. For him, family is simply those who love and care for one another." Camila seasoned the Cuban rice that had become the house specialty. Children understand love in a purer way than adults. They don't complicate things with social status or external expectations. 3 years after the discovery in the cemetery, Sterling Properties had become the most respected construction company in the American Southeast, not only for its innovative architectural designs, but for its affordable housing and professional training programs for underserved communities. Gabriel, now 9, regularly attended company events, explaining with childlike pride how our family helps people have beautiful, safe homes. His presence had transformed not only Helena personally, but the entire corporate culture of Sterling Properties. "Helena," Camila said during a sunset walk along Key Biscayne Beach, "thank you for having the courage to change. Gabriel will grow up knowing that family isn't about blood or money, but about people who choose to love unconditionally." Helena held Gabriel's hand as he ran through the waves, his laughter echoing across the golden beach. "Camila, thank you for giving me a second chance at motherhood. I failed Raphael, but maybe I can make up for it by being a grandmother." "You didn't fail Raphael," Camila corrected gently. You just didn't know yet that love is expressed through presence, not just provision. Gabriel is teaching you that. As they walked back home, Gabriel between the two women who loved him infinitely, Helena reflected on how the accidental discovery of a grandson in the cemetery had turned into the greatest blessing of her life. She had lost a son, but she had gained a true family built on love, mutual respect, and shared values. That night, as Gabriel read her a story, a tradition he had insisted on reversing, Helena understood that true wealth was not in the $800 million she controlled, but in the simple moments: laughter over breakfast, help with homework, spontaneous hugs from a child who loved her not for her fortune, but for who she had chosen to become. The story of Helena, Camila, and Gabriel proves that family is not defined by accidents of birth or legal contracts, but by daily choices of love, protection, and mutual growth. When we finally prioritize human relationships over material achievements, we discover riches that no amount of money can buy. If this story of transformation through family love touched your heart and showed you that it's never too late to start over as a better person, leave a like and share it with someone who needs to remember that life's greatest discoveries sometimes come disguised as the most unexpected encounters. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that true love has the power to transform not only people, but entire legacies.